I want to talk about a proposal that we've been cooking up for TC39. And I usually have this introduction. I've never liked it. I've given this talk a few times. I've never liked it, so I'm going to do something else. Did you see Kent C. Dodds giving the live coding? Did you? You all saw it, right? I mean, amazing. I love how he live codes. Yeah, I feel like an idiot when he does that. Did you see what language he was writing in? Was that JavaScript? It was TypeScript. What was it running under? Node or the browser? Node.js. How does that work? Does Node.js recognize TypeScript? And the answer is no. So how does that work? And the answer is black magic. Remix, the framework he was running under, has black magic under the hood. And so does Webpack, and so does TS Node, and so do a million other kinds of tools that make us run TypeScript on the server or on the browser. I want to get rid of that black magic. I want us to all be able to write JavaScript with types, whether in TypeScript or Flow or any other type system, without all that black magic. Just take a TS file and run it. As easy as that. And this is what this talk about. This is a proposal for TC39, which is the JavaScript Standard Committee that will change JavaScript development forever. It is a proposal for adding types to JavaScript. Oh, woo! Hi, definitely 35 years of experience from the 80s. Never done the management thing. Well, I did, but I didn't like it. Always loved coding. I'm currently an architect at Roundforest. We are hiring front-end, but if you're an exceptional back-end engineer, we're still hiring. Anyway, I am also, and this is important, a member of the group that is writing this proposal, and the original author. It was drafted in a weekend because I was so excited, with a little guidance from Daniel Ehrenberg, Little Dan, who is like this big thing in TC39. But while I am one of the authors of this proposal, the opinions are mine. We have various points of view, even in the group that co-authors this proposal. The opinions you hear are mine. They are definitely not my employers, okay, Roundforest, who don't really care about this. But I did the last bullet because the TypeScript team asked me to. I do not speak on behalf of the TypeScript team. They have their own opinions. I have mine. We are working together on this proposal. Huge thing from my point of view, but I do not speak on behalf of them. Also, the proposal is officially part of the TC39 process. It will take years. We'll talk about that. This is what I'm talking about. This is what we're currently co-authoring. It will change during this process. So this will not look like the same like when it ends, if it ends. And this talk will be about this proposal. Where was it proposed? What is it? And why? And this is, most of the talk will be about the why. Yeah, the light bulb. Okay, let's talk about what is TC39. As we said, this is a proposal for TC39. TC39 is the committee that is responsible for defining the JavaScript language. Why it's called TC39, I have no idea. The language formally is called ECMAScript, but we all know that we can call it JavaScript. The ECMAScript is for various legal reasons. The process is, by the way, very transparent. You can follow all the meetings, all the discussions on this GitHub. I'm one of those that religiously reads all the meeting notes that happen once every 2 months. Crazy, I know, but if you want to do that, you can follow there. Everything you know about JavaScript, like from ES, like after Brendan Eich invented it, comes from TC39. Array.add, some idea includes of string, async await was formalized there, top level await and others. I don't want to get into the features because the stages, but there are various stages. Stage 0 is before it's accepted by the committee. Stage 1 is where it's accepted. Yeah, it's like good idea. Let's see what comes out of it. Stage 2 is where it's mostly fully spec'd. Stage 3 is where it's fully spec'd. And then it becomes 2 implementations need to be done before it gets to stage 4, where that's it. It's in the standard. We're currently at stage 1. Woo, we passed stage 0. And hopefully it'll get there all the way to the end. I will be saying if this gets accepted, okay, if this proposal gets accepted, but after a while I will stop saying that. But assume that it may not ever be accepted. Okay. So let's talk about the proposal. This was proposed on March 31st. And it was accepted to stage 1, as I said. Let's see some JavaScript code. This is JavaScript code, add, return a comma b. As you can see, we do not know what the function wants as numbers. We can only guess. Does it, as types. Is it strings? Is it numbers? We don't really know. Sorry? Arrays, yeah, that's an interesting one. I don't know what array plus array even says, yeah. Okay, same code, like TypeScript or Flow. This is both TypeScript and Flow. I add type annotations. I add annotations that say that it accepts numbers, 2 numbers, and returns a number. That is type annotations, those things. Will this pass? Oh, wait, so the idea is this. The idea is this is going to be a regular JavaScript code that a JavaScript runtime can run. You can copy-paste this code you will be able to copy-paste this code into the browser console or into the REPL, the Node.js REPL, and it will just work as it is. Can't see dots will be able to go on the stage, run the TypeScript code or Flow code without any black magic happening in Remix. That is what this proposal is all about. By the way, will this pass? So I have add. There's a bug here. It shouldn't be add to. I have add, accepts 2 numbers, but I pass it a string and a Boolean. Will this pass? Ideas. And the answer is yes. Well, JavaScript will not be looking at the types. JavaScript will be ignoring the types completely. And we'll see that it's even stronger than that. You've seen this. This is legal TypeScript. This is not legal TypeScript. But from JavaScript's point of view, it is legal. It will be legal if this proposal passes, obviously. So JavaScript ignores the type annotations. It doesn't care what's in the type annotations. It will just ignore them completely. The proposal is now called type annotations, but originally it was called types as comments. So the idea was that it looks at the types and just completely ignores them as if they were comments. And the idea of ignoring means that we will be carving out a special syntax spaces in some parts of JavaScript that will be ignored and treated as comments by the JavaScript runtime. That is something we call the type annotation syntax space. There will be more type annotation syntax space. For example, after the word type, everything afterwards, we'll talk about the rules later, is ignored by the JavaScript runtime and others. So, okay, how does this work with TypeScript or with Flow? Okay, how does this work? When we carved out the type syntax space in the proposal, coincidentally, like almost by chance, they correspond to exactly the places where TypeScript has syntax. So if this proposal gets accepted, almost all TypeScript code will pass because JavaScript will ignore all the type information that TypeScript and Flow have. But a reminder, this is not about TypeScript specifically. It can be TypeScript, it can be Flow, it can be other type systems that will probably flourish. So this is legal type JavaScript, if this proposal is accepted, not legal TypeScript. Wait, so why add type annotations? if they're totally ignored. And the idea is, yes, JavaScript runtime will ignore them, but TypeScript won't. TypeScript will still exist. Flow will still exist. There will be other type systems that still exist and look at the type annotations and know what the errors are. JavaScript won't care, but we will have build tools and IDEs that will care and will show us the errors. Okay, so summary. We have a long way to go, don't worry. Reserve the syntax space for annotations. That is the idea. They are ignored by the runtime, by JavaScript, but are not ignored by third-party type checkers, hopefully, and correspond exactly like the type systems that we know and love, like TypeScript and Flow. We announced the proposal on March 9th, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks before we submitted the proposal to TC39, and the internet exploded. I've been following TC39 closely. I've never seen so much attention given to a proposal. Lots and lots of encouragements, finally, and yes, and woo, and all that. Really, a lot of it. A lot of valid criticism. And some, well, internet-style criticism. I survived, but really a lot of valid criticism, and I want to address these critics in this talk and deal with the valid questions that they raised. So let's talk about the why, and the why is part of it will be how to address those critics. First of all, why add it? Why add type annotations? And this is a valid question. This is not a trivial feature. I mean, adding string dot includes, it's a big thing. We're all using it, but it's trivial. It's just adding a function to the prototype, okay? So no biggie. Adding type annotation syntax space is huge and will affect how we develop in this language. So why? For a feature this big, the value to all of you and to me needs to be substantial. To answer these critics, I want to give two graphs. Oh, sorry. The first graph is, this was given, by the way, on Twitter. A guy sent it to me once this proposal was discussed. These are the GitHub PRs organized by language in March. Sorry. Notice that JavaScript and TypeScript are by far the biggest number of PRs in GitHub. Obviously the open source PRs, not the private source PRs. And notice that TypeScript is almost as big as JavaScript. So if you think of JavaScript and TypeScript as one language, and I do, then half of the code that was submitted to GitHub is now TypeScript code. That is amazing. I did not know that. And that means that the JavaScript community, all of us and everywhere in the world, is using TypeScript heavily. And this is pure data. This is not opinion. This is not I think, it looks like. This is data. Type annotations are used in the field and have proven the value. If you all use TypeScript with no value, I don't believe that. I believe people are using TypeScript and Flow, and this is growing in size because it gives value. Another one is state of JavaScript in 2020. Most people, what they wanted was static typing for JavaScript. Same for 2021, a bit less, but still it's the #1 requested feature in JavaScript. So a large part of the community wants types to be part of the language. So is it worth it, the complexity? I'd say yes. It's very big, very complex, and it's totally worth it because that is what we all want. Okay, 3 more reasons not to add types to JavaScript. Types are difficult for beginners. Types increase payload to web apps, and I don't like types. Types are shite. Okay, types are difficult for beginners to grasp. This is from a teacher. First of all, it's true, but my daughter is 15 years old. Her first language is Java. No, it's a beautiful language. It used to be but now it's better. But it's a typed language, and she gets it. Would you believe that a 15-year-old can get types? It's true that if you don't do types in JavaScript in the beginning and then migrate to types, it's a bit difficult to understand. But if you start with types, it's not that big of a deal. Also, let's look at the last one. New programmers today, junior programmers, searching for example code are likely to find TypeScript examples, and they copy those examples, paste them into the browser console, and it doesn't work. So a lot of example code today is TypeScript, and juniors don't know what to do with it. And setting it up is difficult. In other words, whether we want it or not, type annotations are part of what we do, and beginners need to grasp it and can grasp it as shown by other type languages. Types increase the payload in web apps. I don't get it. Yes, if you add type annotations, the code becomes bigger. So do spaces and tabs and indentations and comments. What do we do if we're browser-oriented? We don't care, like we're Node people. We don't care. But what do we do on browsers? We minify the code, right? Very simple. We remove all the comments, we remove the spaces, and the minifiers will start removing also the type annotations. Very easy. So, I'm not a big fan of that one. But I don't like types. Types are shite. That's valid. Because I was there. I moved from Java to JavaScript, and I thought types were bad because JavaScript was nicer. It's wrong. Well, it doesn't matter, actually. It doesn't matter whether it's wrong or not. I was there. I moved to be type-loving, okay? But a lot of people aren't. But it's not about me. It's not about you if you don't like types, or you if you don't like types. It's about the community. It's about us as a community. And as a community, these graphs show that it is important for us. Okay, so we want type annotations, but we already have TypeScript. Why do we need to extend JavaScript? I mean, that's a lot of people saying that. Why not continue using tooling? I have 3 answers to that, a philosophical, pragmatical. Let's talk about philosophical. We have forgotten our roots in scripting. JavaScript was originally a scripting language. I know a lot of you weren't born. No, not born, but you didn't start there. But I started there. You could write like HTML script, code, F5, boom. It worked. Code, F5, boom, it worked. Now, we have become addicted to tooling. If we want TypeScript, if we want all that stuff, we have all these templates and skeletons that we need to run code. This is mostly in the browser world, not so much in Node.js, but here you go. Remix. Half a server-side framework needs the tooling, and that tooling is difficult. We cannot not use the tooling anymore. Juniors developers don't understand how this tooling works. Senior developers don't understand how this tooling works. I find it difficult a lot of times figuring out what exactly is working under the hood to make all this weird stuff happen. We have become addicted to tooling, and it's not your fault. There were good, valid reasons for that. We need to start removing those reasons, and this proposal is part of that. Tooling is now cargo cult. The other philosophical answer, we're coding in one language, TypeScript, and running it in another. That's not good. And we have a community that is divided between people that write TypeScript and people that write JavaScript. We need to mend that rift. We need them to come together. That's important. The pragmatic answer is TypeScript is everywhere. And the tooling we have now has no other option but to understand TypeScript. Minifiers understand TypeScript. Linters understand TypeScript. Everybody understands TypeScript. And as TypeScript evolves, they need to evolve with it. This proposal says, no, you don't need to evolve with it. You'll have rules that if just like JavaScript ignores the type annotations, you can ignore them too, or remove them. Okay? So this is important for to make the dependence on TypeScript and flow less. And the other one is the political answer. TC39 should be an arena. Types are important. It should be an arena where types are discussed and dealt with and not left only to third-party systems. Okay, so we want types to be part of the language, but this will not enable us to standardize types in the future. This is the most valid criticism from my point of view. It's true. It will not, because if this proposal is accepted, JavaScript will now forever and ever need to ignore types. So we can't standardize types in the future. That's true. But as we all know, when the need arises, okay, love will find a way. We will find a way to standardize types. There are ways around this problem, and I'm sure we can find it if we'll ever need it. And then there's the people that say, okay, type annotations, let's go all the way. Why ignore them? As long as we're doing types, why not embrace TypeScript all the way together? And there are others, we'll talk about that. So why not let's go TypeScript all the way. Let's standardize TypeScript. This is not good. And why? First of all, not everybody is using TypeScript. A lot of people are using Flow and Hegel and others. But yeah, mostly TypeScript, a lot of Flow. All the code you're using to run Facebook.com and Instagram, that's Flow. And Flow and TypeScript, Meta and Microsoft are not done with TypeScript, not done with Flow. They're continuing the innovation of these type systems. They're continuing that. And we don't want to stop that. If we standardize TypeScript, we will stop that innovation. That is not good. And if we standardize on TypeScript, that's it. We're done. The monopoly on type systems is Microsoft's. I don't think so. I think we need a bazaar kind, not bizarre, bazaar, shuk kind of thing, where type systems flourish and compete with one another until one, maybe, or two arise out of this competition. And the other one, and the last one this is very important. TypeScript is huge. If we start standardizing it, it will take 10, 20 years. It'll never end. It's too big. It's just too big. So why not build a type system of our own? Let's throw away TypeScript. One valid criticism is TypeScript is huge. A lot of people that don't like types, they look at TypeScript and they say, "Oh my God, that's too complicated. Let's make a simpler type system." It's nice. It's a nice idea, but TypeScript is complicated for a reason. It's complicated because JavaScript is complicated. Look at Pick. You get an object, you say what fields you want, and it returns an object only with those fields. So .c should be an error. That needs a complicated type system to do. Not a lot of type systems in the world can do that. TypeScript can, Flow can. And we need the complication because JavaScript is complicated in how we deal with it. Okay, but let's make it cleaner. Like Haskell, they have powerful type systems. They're clean. Yes, because they're built on languages that are clean from the beginning. JavaScript is dirty. It's 27 years old. It's very, very difficult to build impossible to build a clean type system out of it. Okay, let's go all the way. Okay, we're doing type annotations. Let's do runtime checking. Let's check the time. Why ignore them? And the answer is, well, TypeScript and Flow ignore them at runtime. Once you run you can do a TS ignore, boom, your stuff is ignored. When you're running TypeScript and Flow, all the checking is done at build time, not at runtime. This is also true for Java, mostly. C++, all the type systems, everything is done on compile time and build time. So let's stop. Having said that, TC39 is checking whether there are parts, whether there are parts of this proposal that can be checked at runtime. We're checking that. The last one is let's optimize based on the types. We know that add accepts 2 numbers, right? So we can run the code much faster because we know that those are 2 numbers. Okay? So let's optimize based on the types. I don't want to get into the technicalities, but Matthias Binance, if you can just very, very quietly enter, that would be nice. Matthias Binance, who was the V8 part of the V8 team, the Chrome V8 team that gives us the runtime that runs in Chrome, wrote a long thread about that. And if you want to read about why this will never work, you can read that thread. It's very interesting. Okay, to summarize, why types? They complicate the language. The answer is because us as the community want it. Types are good, but why not continue with TypeScript tooling? I don't want to get into that. We don't have a lot of time. Let's continue and talk about the proposal in detail. And as I said, this will undergo considerable change. This is how it is now. It will probably not how it will be in the end. First of all, remember type annotation syntax space. We will carve out a space that will be ignored. But how will JavaScript know how to ignore it? It understands that the colon is the start of the type annotation syntax space. How does it know where the types end? Is it the comma? It can't be the comma. Why can't it be the comma? Because the type itself has a comma. And the idea is this. We will search for the comma, okay? But if we find angle brackets or curly braces or parentheses or square brackets, we will look for the end bracket and ignore everything in the middle. And obviously we will count the brackets so that they're balanced. That is the idea of types as comments, ignoring everything between the brackets until we find that comma or whatever it is we're doing. I think this is a good one. This is a good idea, and it will allow the continued evolution of type annotations. TypeScript will continue to innovate in that space that's carved out for them, TypeScript and Flow, until, and this is great. Notice that some types cannot follow this rule, but we can always, and I checked that, we can always add parentheses around the types, and we're done. This is good. Functions, as we said, annotations on the return value and on the parameters, on the variables, just like TypeScript and Flow. Type, fortunately, TypeScript and Flow have the same syntax for them, so that's carved out also. Interface, never liked it, but hey, it's in. Everybody seems to. Class properties, to define what the class properties are. Generics, very, very important. We can't have a language without generics. Importing and exporting types. So we will ignore any export or import that has the type added to it. And basically that's it. There are some problems, okay? Casting. In TypeScript, it's as type. In Flow, it's this colon thing with parentheses. Two different syntaxes, which will get accepted, both, only one. We have to think about that. Generic function invocations. This is not valid JavaScript. Less than, bigger than. JavaScript can interpret that as less than, bigger than. The TypeScript people know it and have proposed a few changes, modifications to TypeScript itself. For example, adding the double colon or a single colon to do that generic function invocation. This parameters, not very sure what that is, but it collides with another proposal. Declare function. This is not valid TypeScript. It's only in DTS, but some people believe it should be. Function overloads, where the function has no body. We don't know what to do with that, but we're thinking about it. Abstract classes. I don't want to get into why this is a problem, but this is weird. Public read-only on class variables, that's a problem because what? Do we now enumerate the exact keywords that are allowed? What if TypeScript or Flow want to add keywords? So the idea is, it's just an idea, maybe use user sigils like %public, %read-only, change TypeScript a little bit, change Flow a little bit to allow this. Some TypeScript and Flow stuff will not be in the spec. Enums, namespaces, parameter properties. Why will they not be in the spec? Because they generate JavaScript. It's not just taking the types and moving them away. It's generating JavaScript. But even the TypeScript team is like very much they don't bless these features. And JSX is in TypeScript. I don't know about Flow. It's out of scope. This has nothing to do with types. Definitely out of scope, although I wish it wasn't. Okay, what happens if this proposal is accepted? If this proposal lands, and I want it to land, there will be no more transpilation of TypeScript and Flow. You just don't need black magic anymore. TypeScript, Flow will run on 99% of the time. With real blah, I don't want to get into that. This will still be checked. It won't be checked by JavaScript, but it will still be checked by TypeScript, Flow, and other type systems so that we can validate it. Slowly, there will be some incompatibilities between type annotations that are recognized by JavaScript and type annotations that are recognized by TS. We saw that it's mostly compatible. My guess is that they will slowly converge over time, and tooling will become much, much simpler because it won't need to deal with TypeScript and Flow anymore. And one of the more important things is type systems will flourish. There will be other type systems that can compete with TypeScript and Flow, and maybe somebody else will come up with other stuff. This is great. I love competition. This will strengthen everybody around. But if this proposal lands, when hopefully, it will take time. These things take a lot of time. We're talking years until it gets landed. But I believe it will be worth the wait. Thank you very much.